Glad to see you guys. How are you feeling? That's high.
Thank you. It's fun for me because it's
Really?
as best as I could.
Well, I mean,
Really?
I was going to say, if you were going to I'll take it. Zero picked out my car. This is this is the first time I'm wearing a blue suit. Like what I did over COVID was I put all my suits in storage and I just had my one black suit because I had a bad thing happen. And so today, the first day I got up, I could see it.
Looks like inside your suit. Inside your suit.
Yeah.
My party shirt.
See this how Gucci gets. So, you're wearing, that's what a great way to do it. No,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So now I understand, it's not important for me. I get it.
She'll give it to you.
No, you better repeat everything. You just said this. No, it'll be like FBI agents. Secret Service. And that's good to see. Okay, so. Are you in 10th or 11th? Or soon to be 11th?
Yeah.
Yours fine. And Gil, I got to see at the rehearsal. You guys excited for the weekend?
Yeah.
I always hope that once you arrive at Shabbat, you got like everything's done.
That's what we thought.
Oh, I heard you had that.
I forgot the towels for the pictures. So we don't need the towels for it because we got the wrong thing.
Photoshop. You got it. Well, I assume it was nice to text her because that means she can make sure the video is working right and stuff like that. You guys in that? Yeah, probably we'll get a second. This is the part where you say, it is. Oh, no. I mean, just. Shabbat Shalom. Wonderful to bring in Shabbat with a beautiful family and an incredibly committed family, a committed young woman, the middle of her group, now coming to ascend to be bat mitzvah and who's been patient in doing so, and to have family gather, which is not something, Michelle and I were just talking in the lobby. Michelle is part of the team here, about how normal this feels, even though this has not been the norm. So it's wonderful to have family gathered. It's wonderful to have congregants here in the sanctuary. Wonderful to bring in Shabbat together. We're going to start by inviting Sharon and Joyce up to the bima. I've set everything up, but I'm here to troubleshoot, to light candles for us, to bring in Shabbat in this way. And to bring in Shabbat in your way, whatever way you do it. Please rise. In our hearts, let's us all make a little prayer for this family, for this Shabbat, that there's nothing left to do, that everything is going to go smoothly, and that we're all here for the right reasons, and we wish Mia just to feel inspired and loved and accepted forever. Right. I did get out the trick box. I bet the kids were pouring, it's probably because the kids were pouring juice over it. Oh my God. Great, so if it doesn't light, I have lots more. Start a new one. This is the trick that rabbis get taught. Use two. No. Didn't happen at all. Pro. Oh, you can just, perfect. Amen. We may be seated. I invite Mia up to the bima for page 13, Shalom Aleichem. You take this. Hamlahim hakadosh baruch hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Yimelech malachei hamalachim hakadosh baruch hu. Barchuni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Yimelech malachei hamalachim hakadosh baruch hu. Zecher l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Yimelech malachei hamalachim hakadosh baruch hu. As Mia returns to her mishpacha, and we prepare to turn to the next page, I'm also going to share my favorite interpretation of Shalom Aleichem, which I'll share again at Gil's Bar Mitzvah if we do Friday night, which I hope we do, which is that there's a teaching that it's about people having children, and that Shalom Aleichem is the wish for two people in love to invite a soul to join them in this world as their child. So Shalom Aleichem, the first verse is that wish. Boachem l'shalom is them beckoning, please come forth. And as you know, in Jewish tradition, the idea is that the soul of the child chooses its parents. So that Mia's soul got attracted, and it's like, there are these two people calling forth, and that soul it gravitated toward. She heard the Boachem l'shalom, come here, come in peace. And then she joined this family, and we're at the third verse now. We're at Barchuni l'shalom, which is, now that we have raised you in peace and you're beginning your adulthood, you're a blessing to us. Barchuni l'shalom. Now you bless us, you bless me, because you're capable of bestowing blessing. And then Seidchem l'shalom. We know we're preparing for in a couple of years for you to go forth to the world and be a blessing to the world in shalom. We continue with Yedid Nefesh. First and last verses, page 14. Yedid nefesh av harachaman mishoch avdach eretzonha yahavutz avdach kimo aya ishtachaveh mul hadara yeravlo yedidutach Mihinofetsu v'chol ta'am yigalena ufros chaviv alayet sukat shalom strum even if you don't know the words. Yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da da, yada da da da, yada da da da. The melody for Yedid Nefesh always reminds me of Chaucer. The idea that we're all pilgrims, according to Jewish tradition, on the Chunaranana on page 15 is the Pilgrim's Psalm. The Pilgrim's Psalm of people arriving at a common destiny, a common location. Originally, it was said when people enter the holy precincts of Jerusalem, pilgrims were coming from all over. Like we have family, some who have come from far away, and some who are here. We have congregants, part of the congregational family, and they're part of this group. We have people who are joining us right now by YouTube and also by Zoom. And so we're all coming from like different places, but our destination is what we have in common. And that way we're coming joining together as friends. As we say the first line of page 15, the first two lines, Psalm of Arrival, we've arrived at the destination of Shabbat, the entrance to this holy time. Let's put down our baggage, whatever you're worried about from the week, whatever you're carrying from the weekdays, or whatever you're worried about chores, the thousands of things that go into that. Let's drop them to the ground. These are unencumbered to Shabbat. Let's sing these words of gratitude. Continue silently to the bottom. God interrupts the psalmist for the end of the psalm, saying that don't be like your ancestors who complained and therefore chased away the Spirit of God, the Shekhinah. So even though up to this moment we've been telling Mia, you know, that, I don't know, that vowel is wrong, fix that vowel, or whatever you've been told in your tutoring. But now that we've entered Shabbat, everything you do tomorrow is perfect. It is. There's no place for finding the world to fall short. The world, as it is given to us during Shabbat, is a world of absolute beauty and to be appreciated as pure blessing. So even though we put the pressure on before, now the pressure is off. We welcome whatever you do as absolutely beautiful and a blessing in our lives. So let's sing the reminder from God for the final three lines. Arba'im shana akut bedo v'omar amto elevavim v'hem lo yadu derachai asher nishbati v'apihi im yavon el menuchati. Let's drift through the Psalms on the following pages. Shirul Adonai Shir Chadash. There's a new song playing everywhere on page 16. This moment that we're entering, this nature around us, the sounds that are coming at who we are in the present moment, all of it comes together in a way that's never come together quite this way before. This song is coming. It's a song of joy, a song of peace, a song of harmony. It's coming from all of nature. It's coming from inside of us. Let us hear it and join in with it. And so Livnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, lishpot hevel b'tzedek, amim b'memunato. Psalm 97 on page 17. We know that smoke and cloud keeps the view of that beautiful song and the presence of God and blessing in our lives. It shields it from view because of injustice and chaos. But justice and God and goodness are just beyond the cloud. Or zarua latzadik uyishrei lev simcha simchu tzadikim badonai v'odu lezecher kodsho. Psalm 98 on page 18. So let us join in with the exaltation all around it. Let's find a way to hear God's voice, God's presence, and feel our way toward it, and join with everything that is moving in that direction. Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, Yishbot hevel b'tzedek, v'amim b'mei sharim. And Psalm 99 on page 19, because in the Torah it says that God's voice actually came from the cloud. So even though the cloud seems to be our way of not feeling God during the week, the Torah reminds us that's exactly where God is residing. So let's put aside our intellect sometimes and feel our way with our hearts. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lehar kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Page 20, Mizmor LeDavid, Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz. Even when things are loud and we don't feel the peace, God is always present, the foundation on which everything rests. Adonai lamabul yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech le'olam, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. I also often like to share a poem at this time as part of the poetry of the Psalms, but also the poetry that we produce. So I'm going to share two poems. The first one is about parenting, and it's by the poet Li Young Lee. It's called A Story. Li Young Lee wrote it about a father, and I'd like to think of it as from either parent. So I hope you can convert it in your mind. Sad is the man who is asked for a story and can't come up with one. His 5-year-old daughter waits in his lap. Abba, give me a new story. Not the same story, but a new one. The man rubs his chin and scratches his ear. In a room full of books, in a world of stories, he can recall not one. And soon he thinks the daughter will give up on her father. Already the man is living far ahead. He sees the day this girl will go. And in his mind, rather than the story, he is crying, "Don't go. I will remember the alligator story. I will remember the angel story once more. Oh, the spider story. You love the spider story. You laugh at the spider. Let me tell it." But he sees his daughter packing her shirts and her luggage. She is looking for her keys. And he thinks, "Are you a God that I must sit mute before you? Am I to be a God that I should never disappoint?" The man returns to the present moment. The girl is right before him in his lap. She is saying, "Please, Abba, a story." It is an emotional rather than a logical question, or an earthly rather than a heavenly one, which posits that a girl's supplications and a father's love add up to silence. We welcome Shabbat with Lecha Dodi, page 21. Lecha Dodi likra kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela, Shamor v'zachor, b'diborecha hishmi'anu, El hamichad Adonai echad, u'shemo echad l'shem tiferet, v'litila lecha Dodi likra kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela, likrat Shabbat, lechu v'necha ki mekor, haberacha merosh mikedem, nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava hatefila, lecha Dodi likra kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela, mikdash melech, melucha hakumitzei mitocha hapecha harav lach shevet behem mekabacha vehu yachamol Allah yichemha Lecha dodi lihikra kahala, Pene Shabbat nekabela, Kitna ari me'afar kuhumi livshi bigdei, Tifartecha hami ayad ben yishai be'e halafi korba el nafshi ge'ala, Lecha dodi lihikra kahala. Middle of 22. Yamin usmoti frotzi vieta donai taritzi ayadish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila lecha dodi v'nei Shabbat nekabela Boi v'shalom aterebahala gam besimcha Uvetzahala tov emunei aham segula Boi chala lecha dodi lihikra kahala Henei Shabbat nekabela. Shabbat shalom. We may be seated. We welcome the Shabbat bride together, Shekhinah. We continue with the Shabbat Psalm on page 23. While I'm singing the beginning, perhaps you would pay attention to the final few lines in English or in Hebrew. Remind ourselves that our hope is that those that we plant in the courts of the values of our tradition grow very, very strong. And even as they age, and even as we may not see them, or even when they are grown up and maybe with more gray hair than we used to have, they're still fresh and fragrant and growing with new creativity and new roads ahead, even for a family that is maturing, all of us. Let's Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. Tov lehodot la'Adonai ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid ba'boker chastecha, bi'emunatcha ba'leilot. Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. We continue silently down the page. Tzadikata hamar yifra, ke'erez balvanon yiskeh shetulim, beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu. Od yenuvon b'seva, Teshenim verananim yihu lehagid, ki yashar Adonai tzuri Elohav latavot. So we turn to page 24 and we prepare for the first of our two mourners' Kaddishes. I'm going to share a poem translated by Robert Bly, whom we lost this past year. It's a poem by Rainer Maria Rilke. For those who know Rilke, and many of us do, of course, many of you do. Rilke was raised by a single mother who raised him as Catholic, even though she was Jewish, but she hid that and she converted for acceptance. And so he was raised that way, but he was born a Jew. Where praise already is the only place grief ought to go. Where praise already is the only place grief ought to go. That water spirit of the pools of tears, that's praise. That water spirit of the pools of tears. She watches over our defeats to make sure the water rises clear from the same rock that holds up the huge doors and the altars. You can see around her motionless shoulders A feeling dawns. We sense more and more that she is the youngest of the three sisters we have inside. Rejoicing has lost her doubts, and longing broods on her error. Only grief still learns. She spends the whole night counting up our inheritance with her small hands. She is awkward, but all at once she makes our voice rise sideways like a constellation into the sky, not troubled by her breath. We've arrived at the first of our two mourners' cottages for the night. It's in the middle of 24, and I'd like to share the yortzites at this time. Beth Israel congregation remembers, among others, on this Shabbat, the yortzites of John Apple, Louis Blostein, Ada Chaikin, Sarah Ida Dukowski Cohen, Zelig Cutler, Simi Cutler, Marcia Dorman, Margaret Dupuy, Thelma Gordon, Carol Green, Menachem Grodin, Joseph Harari, Ben Herson, Leonard Israel, Toby Jacobowitz, Gail Jacobson Makovsky, Andrea Kreverick, Eli Layden, Benjamin Lakin, Alexander Leon, Abraham Lusky, Clarice Malak, Maxwell Markel, Stephanie Metz, Nathaniel Edward Michaels, Jerry Perlman, Sydney Sauce, Anita Strasberg, Ruth Vicker, Jean Wagenfeld, Harry Weingarten, Dolores Weiss, and Theodore Zeller. As we continue to say Kaddish for Elaine Stoller, Natalie Scher, Susan Feingold Schultz, Judith Cashton, Lorraine Sherman, Michael Adams, Leona Leon, Phyllis Werbel, Fanchen Lessing, Carol Feinerman, David Fallman, Bruce Thal, Carol Amster, Gary Joseph Ullman, Paul Ernest Phillips, and joining them this week, Barbara Marco, sister of Liz Fried. For those reciting the Kaddish this Shabbat, please rise and join with me, middle of 24. Yigadal v'yikadash shemei rabba, v'yalma divrach pirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam olamei amaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kodesha richu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Everyone, please rise on page 28 for the beginning of the Arvit service. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. We may be seated and we continue silently, middle 28. Baruch et Adonai. Umavir yom umevi laila, mavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch ata Adonai, hama'arihi v'harabim. 29. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Akein Adonai Eloheinu, B'shachveinu v'kumeinu, Nasihach b'chukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, U'v'mitzvotecha, Le'olam v'hem. Ki heim chayenu v'yorech yameinu, Yorech yameinu, uvahem nehege yomam v'layla. V'yavadcha tasimen olamim, baruch ata Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai. Let's continue all together with V'ahavta on page 30, reminding ourselves that the way we return the love of God is through teaching our children, teaching everyone, but specifically children, the ways of wisdom and goodness in this world. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha b'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'hisharecha. Continue silently for 30, 31, and into 32. Adonai Elohechem. Middle of 32. Umalchuto b'ratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael v'chanu b'simcha haraba v'yamru laham mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh nora tehilot ohosei fele Balchutecha ra'u v'necha bokei yam lifnei Moshe ze'eli hanu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar kifada Adonai Yaakov v'gulam chazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai ga'al Yisrael. Page 33, let's read together in English and let's wish for a protection from God to be spread over everyone in fear of their lives and of their emotional spirits tonight, whether it's in Ukraine, whether it's in Tel Aviv and in Israel, whether it's all over the globe and here among us. So let's read together a blessing for them. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Praised are you, Adonai, who spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. 34. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorotam berit olam be'heini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash. As we are heading down the slope toward the end of the service, and we're in the middle of 34, we're preparing for the standing silent Amidah. For those who do the liturgy, I commend you to the liturgy. And for those who are looking for a prayer tonight, I'll share a quotation that I think is a powerful reminder I think about often, or a wish for this family, and bringing in the spirit of the generations that are behind us, whose gifts we bring today. As the new Supreme Court Justice said, I bring the gifts of my ancestors with me. What are the gifts of the ancestors that we're bringing today to this weekend? And what are the gifts that we are giving a future generations, for them to say the same thing about? So the quotation I share is from Dr. Wendy Mogul. Many of you are familiar with her first book, Blessing of Skin Knee. And I thought it was a brilliant book and a brilliant way to bring Jewish teachings into practical life. She reminds us that parenting is babysitting for God. It's a process that goes by very, very quickly. And our goal is not to make children happy. The goal is to raise our children to have the strength and the values and the skills to be independent. And that is what God has entrusted us with. And so as much as we are embracing during parenting, we are equally preparing to let go. She writes, Jewish wisdom holds that our children don't belong to us. They are both a loan and a gift from God, and the gift has strings attached. Our job is to raise our children to leave us. The children's job is to find their own path in life. If they stay carefully protected in the nest of the family, children will become weak and fearful, or feel too comfortable to want to leave. When we treat our children's lives like we're cruise ship directors who must get them to their destination smoothly without their feeling even the slightest bump or wave, we are depriving them. Those bumps are part of God's plan. As the Midrash said, one has to go to Egypt, places of constriction, in order to be freed and to know how to use freedom. If we overprotect them, we enslave them with our fears and our anxieties. If we give them the freedom to develop strength through overcoming difficulties, they will be with the 20% that the Midrash says, the 20% of Israelites who actually had the courage to leave Egypt. Judaism requires us to be happy. We're supposed to enjoy performing mitzvot and commandments. When we express worry, our children come to see the world as overwhelming and threatening. And so we should practice the 20-minute rule. That's the limit of how much time per day we may worry about our child. I'm going to invite Mia up for the Chatzi Kaddish on 34. And I'm going to invite Meg to do me a favor, which is in my office. I have the cup already filled with wine. Would you bring it and place it by the candles so we have it ready for the end of the service? Please rise. Amen. Continue 35B to 38 or your own reflections and thoughts. For those still davening, please continue. And for the rest of us, please rise now that you've just sat down. On page 47. Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzevam vayechal Elohim bayom hashvihi melachto asher asa vayishpot bayom hashvihi mikom melachto asher asa Vayevarech Elohim et Yom HaShvi'i Vayekadesh oto Kivo Shabbat mikom melachto Kivo Shabbat mikom melachto Asher bara Elohim Asher bara Elohim la'asod Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon Konei Shamayim v'Aaretz Magen Avot bidvaro Mechaye Metim b'ma'amaro Ha'el HaKadosh she'en kamohu Hameniach le'amo Yom Shabbat kodsho Kivam ratza lehaniach lahem Kivam ratza lehaniach lahem לפניו נעבוד ביראה ופחד ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד מעון הברכות אל ההודעות אדון השלום מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי ומניח בקדושה ויעמדו שני עונג זכר למעשה בראשית. Let's remain standing, read together on page 48 at the top. Our God and God of our ancestors, find favor in our Shabbat rest. Instill in us the holiness of your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our portion. Fill our lives with your goodness, gladden us with your triumph. Cleanse our hearts so that we might serve you faithfully. Lovingly and willingly, Adonai, our God, grant that we inherit your holy Shabbat, so that the people Israel who hallow your name will always find rest on this day. Praised are you, Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh HaShabbat. We call up Mia for the Kaddish Shalom 148 and then directly into Kiddush. Amen. Amen. Yehesh meraba mevara, Ya'lam ulam le'amaya yitbarach. Amen. 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 Page 49 for Kiddush. Amen. Amen. Since I only had real wine, I'm going to take the sip if that's all. And let's all do Alinu on the very next page, page 51. We face the ark. Alinu l'shabeach Adon ha'ol, la'teku ha'or yoseh bereshit, shalom asaru k'goyei ha'atzot, ve'lo samanu mishpachot ha'adamah, shalom samtakim kahem, ve'lo ra'inu kechol amonam, v'anachu korim, Kakatu b'toratech Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. You may be seated except for those who are reciting the Mourner's Kaddish. Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 52 for those reciting. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach kirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei amaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tishbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May their memories continue to bring blessings to this world, as I know they do. Adon Olam is on page 54, but first I'm just going to do a few announcements. Mia Rubenstein's bat mitzvah is tomorrow, starting at 9:30 a.m. and be there on time. On Sunday at 11 a.m. will be my Passover Seder experience for children from the womb all the way through, accompanied by an adult, especially if they're from the womb, but all the way through around like fourth grade, third or fourth grade. And I will be enslaving them, and I'm sorry to say, and we will be making them build things for Pharaoh, but they will get to attack Pharaoh with plagues and eventually go free and hold a mini Seder. So there'll be a lot of props involved, and you're welcome to bring grandchildren. And as long as accompanied by an adult, that'll be at 11 a.m. this coming Sunday. Passover Project 2022 continues. If you have spots at your Seders, or you're someone who's like, you know what, I think I'm not going to travel, or I don't really want to be alone, I want to be at someone's Seder, then please call the office. So it's kind of special to be at someone else's Seder is pretty great, and having people you're not expecting your Seder is pretty great. On Tuesday, April 17th at 7:30 p.m., our own Meg Bernstein, our ritual assistant, as well as our engagement director, who actually has a past as the former wine buyer and educator for Trader Joe's, we'll be doing a tasting of a variety of kosher for Passover wines, all available for purchase locally. And so find a new favorite, serve at your Seder, and that is in person. I was going to say it's virtual. Yeah, here, take a whiff. So 7:30 p.m. to Tuesday, April 12th. Wednesday, April 13th, it's a whole week of activities. Pesach Zoom cooking demo with Amanda Fisher. We already have such a large subscription. That'll be our Zoom event. And she will be making 3 Passover desserts, a Passover brownie, a chocolate chip cookie from the Beth Israel Sisterhood cookbook, and a sticky toffee pudding. So you can get the ingredients list for those who sign up and register. And that'll be Wednesday, April 13th at 5:30 p.m. by Zoom. And then Thursday, April 14th at 7 p.m., also requiring registration. I will be leading our first ever Serenity Seder for those of us who are in recovery or exploring recovery, or we know that we have family members or friends who have addiction issues. And we want to touch base with going through the Haggadah from the slavery of addiction to freedom, and to reflect on the parallels between 12-step and our own deep wisdom tradition. So that is registration only, and no one has to share anything they don't want at that Seder, and those things that are shared will remain confidential among the group. So clearly it will not be streamed. And remember, our masking policy is changing on Monday. Masking will be optional at the synagogue, not just for the person presenting from the bima, and unless you hear differently, but that will be beginning on Monday. And all of that information is on our website. So with that, Mia, I'm sure I forgot something. I always forget something. Mia, will you come up and lead Adon Olam, page 54?
Adon Olam Hashem Malach B'Terem Lo Yitzira Ein Asa V'Chefzako Hazai Melech Shemo Nikra Melech Shemo Nikra Yacharei Kivrotako Levado Yimloch Betifara, Beluia, Betifara, Echad V'Yein Sheni, V'Ham Shilo, V'Hachbira, V'Li Reishit, V'Li Tachlit, V'Lo Ha'oz, V'Ha'Misra, V'Lo Ha'oz, V'Ha'Misra, Betzor Heri B'Etzara, Berunisi Umanosli, Renakosi B'Yomekra, Renakosi B'Yomekra, Yado Akibruchi, Ekisham B'Aira.
Let's finish really strong. Hiyati Adonai li velo ira. Adonai li velo ira. Shabbat shalom and b'tei avon. Nice. How do you feel? You were great.